Hello, Steve White, Trek Boy 89 for Steve Arts 89. Well, I just watched Star Trek Discovery Season 4. I just did my little short review of the season, and it was a bit harder because I liked this season. I liked it when it aired. I thought it was good. I enjoyed it. I was shocked. I was enjoying Discovery and almost felt like watching Star Trek week to week. And it's harder to do a review when you like it. There's nothing to complain about. But I'm still going to do my episode by episode, but it's probably going to be shorter because I'm not going to be complaining about everything they did wrong in this episode. I'm just going to be talking about what happened, which is unusual for me because I'm normally reviewing Star Trek shows which have problems. Now, episode 1 was called Kobayashi Maru. Basically, we start off with a disastrous first contact scene, which is a little stupid actually. The way it plays out is very, not very official or diplomatic. It's just Burnham and Book coming down saying, hey, you want some dilithium? Do you want to come back to the Federation? And they're like, yeah, no, we were not happy with the Federation before. Why would anything be different? And get out of here, basically. And they start chasing them, or trying to chase them, because they're having problems because their system which they use to fly has run out of dilithium, isn't working properly. So like, okay, let's give them the dilithium, fix their navigation systems, which will actually allow them to target us better, because they were trying to hit them and couldn't hit them. And then they fix that, but they still, escape and leave them with the dilithium. And it kind of works out, and then they end up joining the Federation. But it was trying a bit too hard to be funny. It was a bit goofy. And I'm like, is this how they're dealing with all the races that left the Federation, or all the first contacts? I don't know. But other than that weird little opening scene, the rest of the season sort of flows pretty smoothly. We start off with Book's planet being destroyed, and we don't know why. The first episode is called Kobayashi Maru, and it ends with pretty much the destruction of the planet. And he basically went off planet to try and work out, there was some energy, I think in space, was trying to work out why all the birds were flying strange and panicked. And when he's off planet, the planet is destroyed and he's basically thrown out in the debris field. He eventually comes back to Discovery. He works out what's happened, and then they have to work out what happened. They find an anomaly, which is the name of the second episode, and they actually have to go into this anomaly to find out what it is. And Stamets goes as a hologram, and Book goes in person to pilot it, and he's, of course, dealing with his trauma, and Stamets is trying to befriend him because they've never really been close, and also he's had some resentment because last season Book was able to use his natural ability to communicate with things, to actually, somehow he managed to work the spore drive himself with the new inputs and everything. So Stamets has had issues with that. Now, episode 3 involved the Kalat Malat, which is called Choose to Live. Basically, there's one random nun stealing dilithium. She kills a Federation officer. Basically, she has found a race of people who are in some sort of hibernation, but their bodies contain latinum, and if she fears, if she tells the Federation that she needs dilithium for them, because the Federation, because they have this whole dilithium planet, they're going around just giving everyone dilithium, saying, hey, come join the Federation, fuel up your ships, let's get back to what we were before. She feels she has to do it in secret. They work this out, they work with her, they end up, they free the aliens, they come out of their hibernation, and then she actually goes, and she isn't really reprimanded for what she did. She kind of gets a slap on the wrist, and the Federation's not happy about that, but they're trying to negotiate with planets, and they're trying to be diplomatic, and politics comes into play. The president becomes a big part of the season, which I didn't totally like on one level, but the fact that she keeps on going on missions and realizes, it gets a bit of a reality check that politics don't always work on the actual the frontier. It does sort of work overall. Now, the 4th episode was All Is Possible. This is where Tilly goes on a shuttle mission with some cadets, and this is really weird because it's like it's like a backdoor pilot for Starfleet Academy, but yet they got rid of Tilly and they didn't use any of these students. They basically someone was arguing a little while ago that they want a Starfleet Academy series in a post-Discovery sort of spin-off series, but they want it to be its own thing, and they only had Mary Wiseman in one episode. And so there are issues. I'm watching this, I'm like, what happened? I want to see this series. I like Tilly. I'd like to see her. Why is she only in one episode? Why did they get rid of her and get Holly Hunter to play some goofy, unprofessional, annoying, is what I'm hearing, character? So that's a whole nother, that raised those questions. But the episode itself is good. They crash on a planet. It's very Galileo 7, and they end up escaping from these monsters. But in order to contact the Federation for rescue, they're going to attract the monsters, and Tilly has to become a decoy. I liked it. It's a good episode. Now, episode 5, we have a prison evacuation. I forgot to mention that in the other longer review. A planet's going to be destroyed by the DMA. They're taking all the people off it, but they're like, oh, there's also a prison over there. You don't have to rescue those people. They can just die. And they're like, yeah, no, we're going to go rescue them. So they rescue them, and one of them decides to stay because, like, I need to pay for what I did. It's a nice episode. Now, that was 5. Episode 6, because that was called The Examples, because they were examples. And they were more political prisoners than anything, but one of them actually was guilty of something, so he's the one who decided to stay. Stormy Weather. Now, this is one they go into a void, which was created by the DMA, and they're trying to study the DMA and work out the DMA because they still don't know what the hell this thing is. And they go in and they find themselves stuck. The only way to get out, there's going to be so much force used that the ship's going to basically partially burn up, and the crew can't survive. So they put the whole crew into the pattern buffer, and then of course Michael Burnham pilots the ship alone in an EV suit, and the ship does partially burn up, but they all survive. The ship gets repaired, and I enjoyed it. See, it's so much harder to review shows when they're good, because like this happened and I enjoyed it. Instead of this is wrong, this is what they should have done. That's why people don't always watch positive reviews. They just want the negative reviews where everyone attacks everything. But to Connect is the next episode. This is where they find the 10C, and Zora won't give them the location, and then they realise Zora, and we've had hints of this because Zora's talking to the crew, and it's like she seems to be becoming her own entity and seems to be developing sentience, and she finally does, and they have to now debate what do we do. And Stamets is like, we need to put a kill switch on this thing because it's dangerous, and everyone else is like, she's an entity, she's like a member of the crew now, like you can't do that. And he's like, she has too much power. She creates a kill switch for herself, and then they debate the morality of that, and eventually they decide that she's actually an entity and needs to be treated as such, and she basically chooses to become part of the crew, and they have to trust her loyalty with just like any other crew member who has access to the ship. So it's an interesting episode. Stamets does seem unusually opposed to her, but someone has to be in order to create the situation where we sort of have the sort of measure of a man sort of scenario where we go through her sentience and her worth as an entity. Episode 8 is All In, which is where they go to this casino, this hidden casino because Book, have I even mentioned that Book has run off with Taka? Book has run off with Taka, and they're trying to fuel this device that's going to destroy the DMA, and they are trying to find Book. So they're like, well, he needs this to power this. Where's he going to get it? And because they've travelled together with all their trading, Burnham's pretty sure she knows where he is, and they find him, and they have to compete with him for this. What was this power source? I can't remember what it was called. I thought I wrote it down. Oh yeah, isolinium, and it's interesting. We see one of the crew members actually, who normally gets nothing to do, actually come down. She has to end up fighting. And I've forgotten her name. It's O something. And yeah, they basically Book actually wins. He actually gets everything that he needs, and they end up putting a tracker on it, so they're able to track him. Now, episode 9, is it called Reuben? Okay. Oh, that's right. Nan returns, and she's overseeing Burnham because she's not being trusted to hunt down Book, and they don't trust that she's actually going to do what she has to do. She has to, like, kill him. So they had that whole conflict with Nan, and Nan basically is being, doing her job, and Burnham actually says to, at one point, Reese, follow her command. If she gives the command to kill, to shoot Book or whatever, do it. Override anything I do. Like she's showing, look, I'm not going to, override you. I'm not going to do anything, but I need you to help me try and reach Book because he's a reasonable person. What else happens in that episode? Yep. That's kind of it for that episode. The Galactic Barrier. Now, they end up having to go through the Galactic Barrier, which is interesting because it looks very much different from the one we saw in the original series. But it's 1,000 years later, so that's kind of okay because it could have changed. But it does seem to be a lot of rocks and meteorites and things in there as opposed to just it being an energy. I thought it was more interesting as an energy phenomenon, basically, that we see that's like full of just electricity and power and danger and everything. But they pass through it. Book and Taka visit the prison planet where he was kept because there's resources and things there and things they need. And he does tell the story of Oros, who is this other scientist that he had to work with and that he sort of had a romantic relationship with. They hint that, but they don't really actually show it when you watch it back again. It's like they didn't make it too explicit. But basically, they were planning to transport to a parallel dimension where they could escape the lives they had there. They get caught before that, they get separated, but he kept coming back, he believes that he escaped because he left a symbol on the wall which indicated that he did. So he's trying to get to that other dimension to get to him. And I'm like, how the hell are you going to find him there anyway? But that's why he's doing all this. He's not doing it to save the Federation or save anything. He's just doing it to try and use the energy source coming from the destruction of the DMA to power the transporter he's created to get to this other dimension, to get to his lover, I guess. So that's all a bit crazy, but that's what he's doing. So we sort of get all that explained. Now the next episode 10, is Rosetta. They've gone through the Galactic Barrier, and they are visiting this dead world, which used to be where the 10C was. And they find the hydrocarbons, which I guess communicate the aliens' emotions, and they realise how this alien species actually communicates. So they finally have a way to try and communicate with them. And that is basically a whole episode where they're down on this planet and they're being affected by these emotions, and we see there's like these giant skeletons and remnants of their race. They used to live in the gas layers of the planet that were destroyed by, I think, some meteorites that burnt out the gas. They had to leave. Now, episode 11, which is called Species 10C, that is where they're trying to communicate with the 10C, and there's this orb, and Taka and that is still trying. They're sort of fighting two fronts. They're trying to communicate with the aliens while they're trying to, stop Taka and that. And they're getting closer. They end up kidnapping Jet Reno because they get onto the nearly called the Voyager, the Discovery. They manage to cloak themselves and basically attach themselves to the hull without Zora knowing. And they're kind of trying to just do that. And they do get away with it for a while, but eventually they get caught. They have to separate. They do, because when they're trying to communicate with the 10C species, they get taken into this orb, and they're taken as well, and they have to escape. So they use energy from one of the cells to escape, and then the Discovery ends up getting out as well. And now it's all about communication with the 10C. So we're down to like the last couple of episodes, and it's pretty much, we realise, thanks to Jet Reno, that Taka's plan's not going to work. He's just going to destroy everything. And probably more people, like the DMA will be destroyed, but it's not going to fix all the problems they think it's going to fix, and it's just probably going to end up creating some sort of cascading problem. It's just not going to work. So they have to stop him, not because it's going to endanger just this race or communication with them in the future. It's going to like destroy everything. He doesn't want to admit it because he's in denial. He ends up taking Book hostage as well when Book confronts him about it. They eventually escape through a cat door in the force field they're being held in. And they do eventually start communicating with this race and start to realise they all have one mind, and they need to communicate with them that they are individuals and that they are being hurt and killed and their environment is being damaged, because these aliens don't appear to understand what they're doing. They don't realise we're higher life forms, sentient beings. I guess they think we're just microbes or insects, and they don't understand the damage that they're doing. So it's all about communicating with this alien race what they're doing. So it's very Star Trek the Motion Picture, very Star Trek For the Voyage Home, and we have a good 2 episodes of them trying to communicate and sort the problem out. And eventually, of course, they do find a way to communicate. They stop Taka. He beams Book off. I don't know where he went, because this is the only part of the season that didn't make sense to me. He goes to beam Book off. We see Book disappear, and then he's got 30 seconds to try and set up his device so the power from, because they can't stop his thing from going off, because they did already, did I mention, they did already destroy the DMA once, and they just basically built it again and just reappeared. So they're not going to solve the problem by destroying it. It's not going to work. But he's still too late to stop it. So he's got a few seconds, and we don't know if he actually gets out or not. But then on the Discovery, they are trying to beam Book off, and I'm like, well, Book's already gone. Where did Book go? And why? If that's, how can that be his pattern? And if they've gotten Taka, how would they not know it's him? But they lose that transporter beam, and the ship blows up, and they think it's Book who's been destroyed. So I'm guessing they had Taka and didn't know. They thought it was Book. And I noticed that the Wikipedia, because I had to read through to remind myself of a few things, the Wikipedia says he was killed, that Taka was killed, and like, not until the ship explodes. So I don't know, there's a bit of confusion there, I think, with them as well. But Michael mourns Book, and they go down to speak with down to the planet to speak to the species themselves. So you have basically the majority of the main sort of bridge crew and the politicians and scientists all standing there talking to these giant aliens who are like one big gas cloud with these giant creatures, and their faces sort of light up with lights when they talk. It's beautiful, it's fascinating, it's interesting. They are able to finally get really clear communication, and Saru is translating, and they're actually having detailed conversation, not the basic conversation they had before. And they're explaining everything to them, and they don't understand why Burnham, and they shut everything down because the Earth and Navarre are under immediate threat from this device. Like, there's like a clock counting down, and literally everyone's evacuating, the ships are leaving. I forgot to mention there's a force field around Earth, but it's being hit by the asteroids and things from the things that are being destroyed, and it's getting close. And they're like, oh, okay. They stop that, they end that, they start to reverse that, and then they're like, why are you sad? And she's like, I lost my one. We are individuals, and you know, you've destroyed his planet, and now he was killed in the explosion. And like, oh no, he actually was beaming out, and we just intercepted the transport beam. Here he is, and he disappears, and that's great. But then he's like, you people need to understand. I understand you know what you're doing, but it's not just that you're killing, you know, higher life forms on the planets. You're damaging whole environments, and you just have to stop using this technology altogether. And once that's explained to them, they go, of course, we had no idea what damage this was causing. We'll stop doing it. And then they open up a wormhole to send the crew back, because they had travelled through by basically, they got where they were by basically destroying the spore drive, and it was a one-way trip that was going to take them decades to travel back by warp, but they did it because they had to. And they sent them back to the Federation, and we get to the Federation, and this has proven a lot to a lot of members, and people are rejoining. Finally, Earth is rejoining, and the president arrives, and it's and she's played by Stacey Abrams, which of course had all the conservatives all upset at the time because, oh no, that would suggest that maybe in the future the president is like not evil. So yeah, it was a nice scene. They basically just talk about the future, and it's like everything's looking up and positive for the Federation. Members are coming back. Stuff like Academy's opening up. You know, the insular mentality so many people had for, you know, survival after the burn and everything is finally sort of gone, and the Federation's going to go on. So I'm glad the Federation survived and is going on, but we did all this just to get back where we were before. So I don't know why they had to do all that. And then again, instead of just going off and exploring space, the next season is like an Indiana Jones hunt for some MacGuffin. So they had this one good season, and I'm like, why couldn't they have just done, you know, why couldn't every season have been like this? Whereas an intelligent, interesting, you know, mystery, exploration, communication, all these things that say Star Trek, that felt like Star Trek the Motion Picture and Voyage Home, which were the best Star Trek films. Instead of doing what they usually do, which is Wrath of Khan, where it's some vengeful villain or evil alien trying to destroy the planet, because it's so boring, because you know they're always going to save the planet. Like, it's like the bad guy's always going to be defeated. Like, at least when you're dealing in smaller stories of individual races, things can go wrong. You don't always win. And it's more interesting. There's some risk, there's some story possibilities, whereas if every season is, oh, the universe is being threatened, the Federation's being threatened, we have to save them from some big bad guy, it's always the good guys win, and there's just nothing interesting about that story, and we've seen it so many times, and so many Star Trek movies are reduced to that because Wrath of Khan seemed to work with the general population more than the motion picture, which was a science fiction story. So yeah, like, I haven't seen the next season. I watched a bunch of reviews and some scenes and reviewed the episodes and talked about elements of the episodes and overall issues with the series as a whole, which I still feel they have, but I haven't actually watched it. So I'm actually finally going to watch it. I bought it on DVD like last year, but I still haven't watched it. So season 4 was great. I remember it being good. I'm glad it was as good as I remember and better than I remember. I'm glad there's at least one full season of Star Trek Discovery you can watch without wanting to scratch your eyes out or scream, which season 1 and 3 have those moments pretty bad. Season 2 only has a couple of little moments. It was all kind of decent, but not quite there. Season 3 was a mess. Season 4 actually worked. And why they didn't just continue on in this vein and continue on from where they left off, instead they sort of regressed and went back to another random like adventure that sort of was like some person out for revenge, we have to stop the bad guy sort of scenario. It's like, wow, they tried, they experimented and gave us one season of Star Trek in a Star Trek series. Overall, it's maddening. But I'm going to go. Feel free to share, like, comment, subscribe. Let me know what you thought of Season 4 of Star Trek Discovery. I'm surprised it took me 23 minutes to get through it. I thought I could do it a lot quicker because there's not as much to complain about. It's more, why couldn't the rest of the series have been like this, rather than actually having anything negative to say about this season. But I'm going to go. Feel free to share, like, comment, subscribe. Let me know what you thought of Season 4 of Star Trek Discovery. And I think the people who hate the series as a whole, I can understand for the most part. But people who hate this season, you know they're just being haters. And they can't admit when it actually works. And this season worked.